Welcome to Read This Author's Corner. I am your host, Alice Jane, and today we will be talking to Dr. Melinda Taylor, the author of Awaken, My Journey from Pain into Purpose. Welcome, Dr. Taylor. Thank you for being on Read This. I'm so happy to have you. Would you please share a little bit about your background and what inspired you to write your book?
Hi, my name is Melinda, Dr. Taylor. I am a mother of one. I have one daughter. I have two grandchildren, one girl, she's 16, and one grandson who is 8. I am an author. I am a writer. I am also the founder of Women Encouraging and Transforming Lives. It's a group of women that come together and we encourage and uplift one another. This group was birthed in 2020 during the time of the pandemic, a time where everyone needed, to be encouraged because there was a lot of fear going on. And so this group was birthed out of the fear, really. And we came together. We came together as a reading group. And the first book that we read was The Power of Praying Through Fear, through Stormy O'Mariton. And we just kind of took that book and dissected, each chapter. I'm retired from the health field. I worked in a health field for over 40 years. I worked with women in breast disease and breast cancer. And now, since I'm going to my next, I'm taking that very next into still working with women and strategizing to how they can become a new you. My book was transpired. It's Awakened, My Journey from Pain into Purpose. And it was really something that was spoken over my life over 30 years ago, that the epitome of the ready writer will be at your fingertips, and you will be writing about relationships. So that didn't manifest itself until 2022. And that's when I awakened my journey from pain into purpose.
When I hear someone say pain, I usually think that's a personal experience.
Yes.
And quite often people don't like to share painful personal experiences.
Yes.
What caused you to want to share?
It was spoken that I would be writing this book. I was in a very dark season of my life, one whereas I couldn't even see myself even writing. The pain was I was abused at the early age of 8 years old, sexually abused. I've gone through physical trauma or physical abuse, as well as emotional abuse. And sometimes that emotional abuse can far exceed that physical abuse. So me going through these traumas or adversities, in the book, I talk about those trials that I went through. Also, as a single parent, I talk about raising a child, by yourself as you're going through those adversities. Also in the book, I talk about, grief. I lost both my parents, and it was all a lot to go through at that time. When I look at the title of the book, Awakened means he awakened me. He awakened me from the darkness that I was living in. He brought me into his light. When you look at the title Awaken, it comes in so many forms and facets. You can be awakened from just life challenges. Someone could have lost a loved one, a loss of a job, something major. And then out of that experience, you've become enlightening, after you go through it. It's like an epiphany, I guess you can say, that you go through, that changes you. And that change is you being awakened. So I take this and I look at the journey, and we all have pain, just as you mentioned, we all go through that. But now my next is, since I have time, my next is talking to women, that are going through the abuse, that I have went through, and let them know that they can become a new you. Let them know that their value, let them know their worth, and they're worthy of a lot of things. Then you were insecure, shy, you doubted, insecure, broken. Now we're going to turn that and flip that. We're going to show the love and the joy and the peace that you can have, through the strategies of learning that they can use their voice. They have a voice. I remember them saying Maya Angelou, she was raped and she lost her voice. She did, but we're gonna get our voices back, and we're gonna be, women that can go out and tell our story if that's what you want to do, or just make change in somebody else's life. Also, I have an acronym that's called, it's fear. Most people know fear as false evidence appearing real. I look at fear as fear, facing everything and arising above the situation. So face everything and rise. So I take all those things, this is the next, that I want to do for women. There's also a thing I say, be accountable. And be accountable is not just someone being accountable to you, but learn your numbers. And your numbers is learning your finances. These are all things as you rebuild yourself from that hurt and pain.
So the reason you have decided to share is because you really believe your story will help to empower women. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's exactly what you're hearing. They always say that very thing that you went through, you go back and you pick up others that have gone through that same thing, because who knows better than the person that went through it?
And so in your story where you're sharing your pain purpose, can you say how would you define your purpose now? Is it just empowering women, or is there something else that you would describe as your purpose?
As I look back over my life, God has always placed women into my life, working with just women in the healthcare field, doing mammographies with breast disease. And he always sending me women and single women, and I just noticed a lot of broken women that have gone through the same, and it's just weird because he's sending those women that have gone through the same thing that I have gone through. So my main subjective is empowering women. Yes. They always say break it down. If I was to break it down, I would say single women, because that's what I am, but it could go to all women. Yes. But as I was writing my book, it was a lot of, they always say, who's your target audience? So
Right.
if I have to say who my target audience is,
Yeah. So what are some of the key points that you would like women to take away from your book, your story?
I would like them to take away that destiny resides within them. I don't care what you've been through. Destiny is within all of us. That you are called to the greater. I don't care what you've gone through. You're called to the greater, and you can do it. We have to believe in ourselves. A lot of women, because of the trauma, they lost belief in themselves. It's to bring them back up again, to believe in themselves as, yes, I can. They can become as Michelle Obama in her book, Becoming. You can become, think of that, that caterpillar and the butterfly. You can be transformed, into being that purpose, that person that God had purpose for you to be. So my goal is to help women to come into their purpose of what God have called them, to go deep inside, to touch those areas, those dark areas that need to be illuminated by God himself.
I love the way you tie that in, that we are all becoming. We have not necessarily arrived. It's that whole butterfly metamorphosis that we're going through. Just thinking, if you were to share with someone something that has helped you the most to travel the journey from pain to purpose, is there something that sticks out in your mind that
You know what? I have to be honest, and the only thing that helped me through was my church family. being around people that would hold you accountable, and that would lift you up and encourage you that you can do this. But mostly of all, it was God. Is my quiet time alone with God, just crying aloud and sparing not, that I need help raising this child. I don't want to go through this abuse anymore. Please just give me peace. Then once I get peace, I will never, ever I would be more wise in making my decisions, than I did before. But my main encounter was laying on my face and praying, and he started to transform me. And I saw the transformation, and I saw the blocking. He started to block some things. He just wouldn't let me go there. So he blocked those things, and he started I saw him transforming. I can go back to stories, when I lost my job also. That's part of the pain, for 3 years here. I have a child to take care of, and I find myself on the welfare line. I had a job, worked in the medical field. I thought nothing like that would ever happen. I'm like, why am I here? But God was doing something in me. He was transforming me. He was molding me to be what he wanted me to be. So as that molding and that shaping that he did, it brought me into my purpose. There were women going back. I remember, being involved in a church, that really helped its members. Like when my cabinets, I didn't have food or whatever, I'll get a knock on the door, and there's my pastor, with, like all these bags of food. That was God, that was God. When my car was repossessed, and I'm like, oh my goodness, now what am I going to do? Someone from the church, once again, gave, let me use, a car, the better car, so I can get around. All those are God, and you have to see God in your situation. And I saw him. And that's what immediately, then once I got this thing, I was sold out. And I would like to go back, like I said, and let other women know, that there's nothing that you cannot do with his help. And you have to, it's a choice, that you make. So you have to have that choice that you want to change. Some people don't want to change. There was a time when I didn't want to change, but you have to, it's a choice that you're given.
I heard a couple of things in your story. One, I heard you say that you asked for help. You asked for the transformation. You decided that, to your point, you wanted to change, and you asked God to help you make that change.
Yes.
Then in the process of, no matter how hard or how bad things were, you were grateful for the blessings that he was still sending your way. You,
Yes.
you didn't focus on what was going on that was negative, but you were grateful of the positive things, that how people were blessing you in the midst, preparing a table before you in the presence of your
Yes.
enemy.
Yes.
You had those experiences, and you saw the table that was prepared in the
Yes.
midst of everything else. So that gratitude helped pull you through to the other side. And
Yes.
truly, the more that we are grateful for the blessings that God showers upon us, the more blessings that he
Yes.
showers upon us, right?
Yes. That is so true. So true. So true. Yes. The more thank him. And I was just thanking him for just the little things I was thankful for, because I had gotten into a point whereas, it was my job. And I really thought, that my job was everything, when I had that job. So he took that job away from me. And now who are you going to depend on?
Right. Because things are not by our might,
Exactly. They're
and
by his
we have
might.
to lean on him. And
Yeah.
so I love your stories, because your stories make the Bible real.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes when you read the stories in the Bible, for say for a non-believer, yes, he did it for them, but will he do it for me? That happened thousands of years ago.
And that's what you hear.
But when someone meets you and
Mhm.
you say, this is my story, this is how he provided oil, how
Yes,
he kept filling those bottles of oil
yes, he
when there was
did.
no resources for me to have oil, but that faith, that gratitude
Yes,
just kept filling up the bottles of oil and kept
yes.
going and getting to the other side. I can now look back and say, but for God, you
But
know.
for God. And I keep hearing, Jehovah Jireh. I remember I wanted to start like a little business, Jehovah Jireh's closet, and
Mhm.
I just got clothes, from different people, like a Goodwill kind of thing to help, women. But yes, he was my Jehovah Jireh. Just like you said, he brought that up off the page, for me. And you're so right. The Bible became real. It became real.
When I'm listening to you, that's what I hear, and I feel that you give to women is the reality of the scripture.
Yes,
It's like I am the modern day versions of this story, that story,
yes,
this story.
yes, yes. And he can, and whatever you're going through, it doesn't, God is no respecter of persons. So what he done for one, he would do it for another. But it's that choice, I have to emphasize. It's that choice that you have to make, that this is what you want. You don't want to live this way. You don't want to live that way anymore, and you want change. You want to be transformed, because God will meet you where you're at, if that's what you want, he says in his word, he will give you what you want. So I
Yeah,
get
he
I
gives you free will, right? You
he
have
get
free will
exactly, that's
to
exactly
choose.
what the choice is. It's free will.
So,
Hmm.
can I ask, what do you think was the catalyst for you to want change?
I don't, oh my goodness, what was the catalyst? What was the catalyst for change? I was always a go-getter. I always was one to a go-getter, but my life was, I was living one way at one point, going to church, trying to say that I'm one way, but I was living another way, so I had to, if I was going to do this thing, I had to be for real with it. So I guess his word convicted me. I guess it was conviction. I was convicted, like, who are you? You've been around saying you're all this, but you can't step. And then that's when I said, you know what, I'm sold out, because you can't serve mammon and God too. You know what I mean? So I just became sold out
The
because he convicted me.
My story of the strongest conviction I remember from church was the power of the tongue. My pastor had done a three-part series on the power of the tongue. And I never really curse or anything like that, but I had a sharp tongue. I could give you a piece of my mind like that. And I recognized that, woo! And I was so convicted by that, that to this day, if somebody says something, I now stutter, and I never stuttered before in my life. It was like that harness that he put on me. So even if I wanted to come back with a quick response, most of the time it's like, I
And he
can't
like
get
he
the
like
word.
glues your tongue to the roof of your mouth.
That conviction was so real
Right.
that it caused a physical reaction. I can honestly say I do truly understand when you say conviction, because
Right.
conviction not only causes you to ask for the change, but it also will physically move you in a new direction when you surrender to that conviction.
Exactly. When you surrender. Exactly.
When
Exactly.
you surrender.
Mhm.
So you basically, through your books, you're kind of women, kind of the steps, I guess, maybe to move from that pain into purpose.
Right. The next step from the book is the strategy. Yeah, the five I have the five strategies of becoming a new you, and it's how we can become and go into going back to that not knowing your value, not knowing your worth. That sometimes when you're in an abusive relationship, that seems to be taken away, so try to rebuild that, to let them know what they are worthy. And then personal development also, knowing that, take yourself out, go out for spa day or I can treat a group of women, to a spa day or something, let them, travel. I mean, if you can, people are in different areas. Sometimes we think that we always got to wait for somebody to go somewhere, but there's groups now, there's travel groups where you can go in and you
Right,
can, be with the group, as far as your traveling is concerned. And use
right.
that voice that God has given you,
Mm,
so that's the strategy,
yeah.
to, us as a women encouraging.
What would you like the audience to take away from meeting you and hearing you today? What is it that you would like for them to leave here knowing and inspire them to pick up your book?
Well, a woman that have gone through it, through the abuse, through the pain, through the adversity, the trials and the tribulations, no other person to actually to help, bring you, into your destiny, no more than someone that have already gone through it. You know, there's purpose. There's purpose in you. There's purpose in all of us. We were all brought here for a purpose. And a lot of us don't know what our purpose is. And I didn't know what my purpose was. But until I kind of, think about some of the things you like to do, and I know that I like to help women. I like I like to help women. I like to see us, to be our sister's keeper,
Right.
in that sense. So the greater one lives inside of you, and there's destiny within you also. So
I would like for you to share your what you want people to know that they can get from awakening your book.
okay. I'm gonna read, if you don't mind,
Sure.
what I have
Yes.
on the back of my book.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. As this book originated out of conversations with various women from all walks of life. Melinda A. Taylor's journey with Christ evolved out of the need to share with women that Christ is the ultimate reason to live life with purpose. God's desire for her was to accept her assignment and allow him to change her into his likeness so she can make a difference in the lives of those around her and those he would place in her life. Understanding one's purpose, or the calling, as some would say, comes with much sacrifice, pain, and giving of self if you respond to his voice. Her journey gives a message that can empower others to run for Christ and accept the fullness of God's calling. In doing this, you will begin to align yourself with the plan he has for you without any regrets. Will it be a challenge? Will there be tears? Will you have to look at your past and reflect? Yes, to each of these with the tenacity to see God's plan move forward.
Well, thank you. I believe that your book will inspire, motivate, and change many
Yes.
women's lives. and the fact that you had the courage and the tenacity
Mm,
walk in your purpose and share your pain.
yeah.
Um, and that's not a small thing, you know.
No.
It's not a small thing. It's not everyone that can share their pain
Yeah.
um, to help people fulfill their, to help other people fulfill their purpose. So,
Yes. And people are looking for people to be authentic,
right.
to be real, not
Well,
that's
I love your passion. I love your passion.
it's like we need to be there for each other. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're not, and we're losing people.
Thank you so
So thank
much,
you.
Dr.
I
Taylor.
enjoyed
Thank
this.
you for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your knowledge
Thank you.
and I look forward to having you back again. God bless
Okay.
and thank you. Don't forget to pick up a copy of Dr. Melinda Taylor's book, Awaken, My Journey from Pain into Purpose. Until next time, this is Alice James.